Actually, I just remembered one. Um, Many of you are aware of Dolly Parton's literacy program for children that's called WREN, WREN. Ted Lapis is holding a fundraiser for WREN during a Sally Tibbs Lapis showing of her artwork at Sage Gallery. It's her artwork goes up on the 9th. Any any sales or other things go to the Wren Foundation. Obviously, there's not a lot for sale unless they've done prints or something. And you can also donate. But she's going to be, her work is going to be exhibited for 3 or 4 weeks at the Sage Gallery, which is the old depot. Or no, they moved it.
Yes, it's the first floor of the Montgomery building, just across the street from Wyeth Theater there.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute, that's where they used to be. But you can drop in and visit Sally's work. There's a couple of Ted might have a bit. Oh, Ted doesn't Zoom, but there's I think the 26th, the official, what's it called? The official opening dedication
reception.
Reception. Thank you. And Nancy Furnish had something to do with arranging that. Good job, Nancy. But I think it would be really neat because she was so prolific and wonderful, and she worked in so many different media that if any of you went to her memorial, people brought stuff, and it was incredible. So it'll be a treat. So I'd recommend looking, and if you can, donating something to Wren because it's a good cause.
That's great. If people don't know more about what Dolly Parton's been up to with children's literacy, it's a pretty incredible endeavor. There are no small number of children who have books in their home only because of this effort. She gets books to basically anybody who's on food stamps and has children at home. They get books in those kids' hands. So yeah, there's a lot of kids whose first books all come from Dolly Parton. And I know that Marie Lowe here locally is kind of like one of our leaders on that. So yeah, thanks, Sue. That's awesome. Anything else?
Okay, I think we can start with opening words. We're doing the UU from home today, so hope it goes well. Opening words are from vocabulary.com, which I found out existed when I Googled generosity. Generosity is a quality like honesty and patience that we all probably wish we had more of. When you show generosity, you might give away things or money or put others before yourself. But generosity is about more than cash and stuff. When you're forgiving and gentle to people, you show generosity of spirit. If you give others help or credit, that shows generosity. The world would certainly be a better place if more people show generosity to others. And now we have our morning music. It's Miss Generosity by Stephen Bennett.
My
Okay.
apologies. It appears to be on automatic and it's still going. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Okay. That's gorgeous, but we're gonna cut it off. Sorry about that. Okay.
All right, so next we have the chalice lighting. So love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now we welcome joys and concerns.
I have a concern. This past week, Dave and I lost a very close friend, and I hope the universe will bless his family and friends with acceptance and strength and courage to carry on. Jim Holt was a great guy and was beloved by those who knew him. So.
All right, anything else today?
Grace and I went and had dinner with her dad. And it almost felt like it was the first time we've really been at ease. We've had our first shot a week ago and he's had his vaccinations. So, and in addition to that, we've all been quite careful. So it felt like we could sit down and have a meal together, and that was really delightful. So just a little ray of hope there.
I would have you light a candle for my sister Lynn, who's battling cancer, and a good friend Joel, who is ill with COVID.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and light a candle for joys and concerns felt but not expressed out loud. And I won't set my house on fire while I do it. Okay, here we go. So the next item on our order is we have a story for all ages, and we're going to do things a little differently. We're going to do a video. It's a little cartoon this time. All right. So it's amazing what you can find on the internet these days. I don't think we have any young ones in our mix, do we, today? But if anyone would want to offer any other reflections, there's something I'm going to refer to in my talk called the helper's high. And I think that tall gentleman found that through his expression of generosity. Okay. Anything else folks want to say about that? All right. So we'll go into the meditation. It's called 7 Gifts That Require No Possessions, and it's by Manshu Koshin Otani. In Buddhism, there is the phrase, the 7 gifts that require no possessions. The 7 gifts are the gift of gentle eyes, looking at others kindly, the gift of a smile and kind expressions, the gift of words, speaking kindly to others, the gift of the physical body, acting properly yourself and treating others with respect, the gift of heart, touching others with a heart full of love, the gift of a resting place, offering others a place to sit and rest, the gift of shelter and lodging, providing others with a room or a warm place to stay. These 7 gifts do not require any money or goods in the least. Of course, we cannot live the way Buddha lived. However, we can emulate the Buddha. When we do so, we can better appreciate what a truly wonderful heart the Buddha must have had in order to accomplish what he did. And as we go into the moment of silence, just please take a moment to think about the gifts you give others and the gifts you wish to receive from others. right. Our message today is called Generosity is a Calling. In the nonprofit sector, we refer to traits we look for in volunteers as the 3 W's: work, wisdom, and wealth. You may also hear this sometimes referred to as the 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure. Either way, the idea recognizes that there are multiple ways to give your generosity to a cause. Too often, when someone thinks of what it means to be generous, they immediately associate that with financial giving. They get a picture in their head of someone presenting the big check to the charity at an event where everyone is dolled up and dressed to the nines. That is actually a very small fraction of generosity in the nonprofit sector. The 3 T's recognizes that even if your wallet isn't bursting at the seams, and even if you don't have a treasure chest buried away in your attic, there are still ways you can meaningfully contribute to an organization. Giving time and talent instead of, or in addition to, treasure helps to round out the bench of supporters and brings in needed resources of all kinds into the organization. While the 3 T's and the 3 W's are perhaps a bit catchier, I also like to think about the 3 L's, as I call them: love, leadership, and light. The 3 L's recognize that being generous is not about what you have to give, but rather who you are. It recognizes that while external factors are important pieces of how one can be generous, how much money you have, what time you have to give, and what skills you have learned over the years, are possibly not nearly as important to your generosity value as your internal characteristics. The concept of the 3 L's looks internal to your traits of humanity and spiritual essence. For those that are truly generous, acting with that generous spirit is a calling one willingly and even longingly at times takes on, rather than an obligation. You don't donate your time and money because you feel you have to, but rather because you want to. Generosity comes easily for people with the 3 L's and is never forced. The 3 L's start naturally with love. This love is bright and big, and when you act with love, you are bringing your generous spirit with you to everything you touch. Acts of love come in all sizes and shapes and require intentionality in how you interact with others and the broader world you find yourself in. The second L, leadership, is also not what you have, but who you are. If you give your leadership, you teach, you cultivate, and you help others to be inspired to act with love and generosity as well. I prefer leadership to the wisdom of the 3 W's or the talent of the 3 T's, because it's not just about what you bring to the cause, but rather how you use what you bring to build a movement. We've been talking over the past few weeks of generosity growing exponentially, and that is the foundation of leadership. This logarithmic chart that starts with you, but becomes so much more. It is the basis of people power, grassroots action, and a populist driving force to counteract corporate power and topple the evildoers of the world. When you give your leadership, your actions grow with others to achieve victory in those actions. Your donation is added to others to fund an entire organization's budget, and your services benefit those most vulnerable by helping them overcome the obstacles of life. In other words, you have the power to change the fate of humanity. Yes, you, anyone, can have that power if you act with leadership. The third L, light, immediately recognizes its evil twin of darkness and seeks to counterbalance and extinguish that darkness. To act with light is to fight against the darkness of humanity. It is the internal trait of goodness, compassion, and giving. Like love and leadership, light is also expressed in many forms, in many ways, small and large, in daily interactions and more purposeful intentionality. It is a brightness that comes from within, yearning to express itself externally to others. I am lucky to work for an organization that is full of members and leaders bursting to the brim with the 3 W's, the 3 T's, and importantly, the 3 L's. Every day I am blessed to have a paycheck, a roof over my head, and food on my table because of the generosity of our members and funders. I am humbled to know that everything I have as an employee in a nonprofit is only there because someone else gave enough to allow me to have it. And beyond the financial aspects of meeting our budgeting needs and compensating our employees, our members give generously of their time, their talents, their leadership, their love, and their light. In my work, where the political balance does not often tilt our way, these traits of generosity are the only way we create change. Going back to that logarithmic chart, we build on one another to create power and construct a more loving, just world. And I hope to think our members and donors also benefit from their generosity. The nonprofit sector often refers to something called the helper's high, the positive feeling that you get when you know you are doing something good for other people or the larger world. It may not always be easy to see the concrete benefits of your generosity. Sometimes a cause is too big, or it takes too long to achieve success, or sometimes it completely fails and your money goes to something that doesn't end up working out. But you can also benefit from knowing that you are helping an organization take steps towards achieving something big someday. Shifting gears from my day job, one of the ways I give my time and talent is through the library board. I'm about to finish my 2nd term of 3 years serving on the Sheridan County Library Board of Trustees, the last few serving as chair. As an aside, this means there's an opening coming up looking for someone with generosity to fill it. So if you're interested, let me know and I can help you apply. The library is dependent on its friends, literally called friends, who find donations and carry out charitable fundraisers on its behalf, and its foundation with a not big enough pot of money to help meet its budgetary requirements, and other local foundations as well that give generously to the cause. The library is also dependent on the taxpayers of the county, since the largest share of revenue comes from all of us who maybe aren't acting with generosity when we go buy a new pair of pants, but your share of your income that you pay in sales tax on those pants goes back to providing for the library and other governmental services here in Sheridan County. People don't often think about acting with generosity when they pay a tax bill, but maybe they should. Taxes, as you know, are literally all the rage these days in Wyoming. We are facing tough choices about how we as residents of our state will share our wealth and treasure with those most vulnerable. The safety nets are fast getting cut and soon won't be able to catch anyone at all. Many of you know this, but in general, taxes are either progressive or regressive. Progressive taxes increase with a person's wealth, income tax being the biggest example, which of course we don't have here in Wyoming, but property taxes and even things like car registration are progressive because those with bigger homes and more expensive cars pay more. Regressive taxes are flat across income levels, so they take the largest slice from those with the least. Back to the library, at the county level, one of our largest sources of revenue, as I just mentioned, is sales tax. Sales tax is a regressive tax, but the tax can act more progressively when applied to luxury items, not daily necessities like food. Anyway, this is all to say that not all taxes are equally generous. Some actually take more than they give. I'm not sure how exactly I got us all onto the subject of taxes, but perhaps as the second half of the 2021 Wyoming legislature starts up tomorrow, the topic is on my mind in an unavoidable way. And perhaps when I think of generosity and acting with love and compassion, I'm drawn to understanding why some of our friends and neighbors are willing to act in defiance of these traits. Are they intentionally bringing darkness and acting with hate? Well, perhaps not intentionally, but unintentionally, that is the result. Our state and our nation is certainly a place of haves and have-nots. We would all collectively do better if we shared a bit more and helped to equal out the treasure. Back to the nonprofit sector, one of the things that is often surprising to people is that those with lower incomes generally give a higher percentage of their income to charity. They're not out to claim a charitable giving tax deduction or obtain a coveted spot on a foundation board. They are giving because they want to, because of their generosity inherent from inside of them. And sometimes you have to understand why charity is necessary to see the value of donating your time, talent, or treasure. Whenever I think of generosity, I always think of my dad. He exemplified the concept I just explained above about low income giving. He never really made much money over his life, but he always gave whatever he could to a variety of underdog causes he believed in. His frugality was so inherent to who he was, he never wanted to live with more than what he needed, and instead would give what he didn't need to recognize charities, or sometimes the unrecognized charities of my brother and me. Since his passing, I have tried to take on writing some of those checks he used to. They send me all the mail now that he used to get, so I know what checks he used to write, including at times to my brother. And I have tried to take on some of his callings as my own. I do this because my dad had a lot of the 3 L's in him, especially that leadership in the way that he parented me. To wrap things up, I know all of you can think of someone who through their leadership inspired you to be more generous, who through their love helped you love a little bit more, and who through their light helped you overcome some of that darkness in the world. And I hope you are now inspired to understand more about how you can use your own love, leadership, and light to act generously in your lives and in our shared community. Thank you. Okay, now I have to go. So now we will have our hymn, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. And I chose this because for those of you that listened to the Valentine's service, they had a beautiful rendering of this one. And we weren't able to sing it together. So I wanted to share it again this morning so we could have a sing along with that song. Now it's time to bless the offering. So I don't have the offering here, but we all know what the little basket looks like. So imagine a basket and we will bless it. Let this be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is so sacred to many of us, a community of memory and hope, for we are the keepers of the dream. Remember, you can send your checks to Ramona. And I think, Ian, do you want to put her address in the chat, or Ramona can do that? That would be great. And you can also donate online via the website, SheridanUU.org, and they'll take you to the Tithely website. And again, you can set it up so you donate weekly or monthly or as regularly as you want to. So thank you all for your generosity to our fellowship and our allowing us to have our time together every week. Okay, our closing words come from Joshua Becker, who is the author of The More of Less. Generous people are quick to admit the world's problems will never be solved by one person, and perhaps never completely solved even in the future. But perfection does not slow them. To them, changing even one life within their sphere of influence is reward enough and is a worthy endeavor to be sought. All right, so now we'll open it up to discussion.
I just wanted to say thank you, Shannon. This was a wonderful service. You put your heart and soul into all of it. You showed us your generosity in sharing with us. And it really hit in a really good place with me today. And I don't have anything profound to say, but I wanted to say thank you, and it hit home.
No, thank you, Sue. That was really nice. Yeah.
Shannon, I really liked when you talked about your father, and you're fortunate that you had somebody in your life to model the 3 L's for you.
Yeah, thanks, Bill and Michelle. I really appreciate that. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him. And I mean, one thing I'll share just is on the treasure part. I found out when he passed, because again, I get all these bills from these nonprofits that he used to donate to, and he donated like $1,000 a year to Amnesty International. And I was just like, Dad, how did you do that? So now I donate about 1/10 of that to them. But they keep sending me requests for more, thinking that I could somehow give what he gave. But I was really impressed, because he never made probably more than $40,000 a year, but he gave, you know, such a substantial part of his income every year to charity. And it really, you know, just made an impression on me in my life in a pretty profound way. I remember one time I, you know, had something happen, either with, you know, a car that broke down or something. And he just said, you know, Shannon, it's only money. It's okay. Like, we'll just, you know, we'll get by, we'll make it work. It's not a big deal. And, you know, that's just what he always felt about wealth. It's just, you know, it wasn't something to ever worry about. It was something to give and to share. And, you know, if people were having trouble, to be able to help them out as well. So, yeah. It's
just to add to that, I would like to, you may know this, Shannon, but I don't know if everybody knows this, that when we were in the process of trying to purchase the building that we have, your dad stepped up in a huge way.
In a private way.
In a very private way. And I'm not going to disclose the amount, but it was extraordinary. And that certainly left a lasting impression on me about his generosity. And I appreciate that you brought him up this morning, because it helped me remember my dad's generosity. My dad was also not an extremely wealthy man, but he gave of his treasure and his time and his talent. In many ways, as mostly to his synagogue. He had artistic gifts, and he would create these plaques for synagogues, that took hours and hours to create, but that was something he loved, and again, he was very generous with his money and so on. So I think we have a little bit in common in terms of having dads that were role models for us to try to emulate, but they are a tough act to follow for sure. But anyway, thank you for your talk this morning. It certainly did inspire me.
Thanks, Victor. Thanks for sharing that. It looks like Barbara has her hand up.
I do. Can you hear me now? Okay. So thanks, Shannon. That was a lovely, inspirational bunch of thoughts that you shared with us this morning. I think I wanted to mention how good it makes us feel personally to be generous. And I also know that when I am the recipient of generosity, of talent, leadership, that means like you and everyone that's listening today, it's so good for our souls and makes us feel so good about living. And then I thought I had so many thoughts while you were talking, but when we were going to move to Sheridan, Charlie wanted a good job and he wanted good fishing. I wanted a good library and preschool. So thanks for working on that library and the Powder River. These are two nonprofits that are so important. They don't have the highest visibility. And I see Miss Climb over here on my screen. So all of these things are so important, and they really do require all the T's and the L's and whatever else, W, whatever else you said. So anyway, thanks very much.
Yeah, well, thank you, Barbara. You have definitely been incredibly generous to all of these causes. So it's important to, I feel very blessed to be in Sheridan because we do have, I think, a community of givers that's unique in Wyoming in a lot of ways. Very strong, philanthropy, local foundations, organizations that are equipped to handle, I think, the safety net that we all have in our community. I was telling someone recently about, just during COVID times and how Sheridan even had, our own pot of money that we were giving to grants and, writing checks to individuals that needed it. In addition to the federal and state money, we had our local money through the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Sheridan Association. So I think it is, again, lots of examples out there in the community that help us feel inspired to be giving and generous. And I see that someone mentioned, the greenhouse, of course, which a lot of you are also involved in, and other nonprofits locally. So, yeah. Anything else?
Shannon, I loved your presentation. It was so inspiring, and I was especially moved by your just intentionality, that how you live with gratitude and feeling gratitude when you're eating a meal in your safe and warm home, and being able to be so intentional about that was particularly inspiring to me. And I was so humbled to be able to see my mom and godmom in this little space together, who are the two most generous women that I could have possibly known. And it made me think about the video, how generosity is contagious, and just so appreciative of the modeling that these very strong and very generous women showed me. And you can't see the table that my mom is sitting at right now, but to me, when I think about generosity, it's the symbolism of that table. There was never anyone that wasn't allowed at the table, and so much food and conversation and love and just community was built around that table. To me, it's the absolute symbolism of generosity. So it's really special for me to see my mom at the table and hearing your talk.
Oh, thank you for that. And thank you, Holly, and your table of generosity. That's a lovely just vision to think about. Yeah.
And Barbara too. That's the godmother. Wow. Thank you, Katie.
Amen.
Thank you.
And Katie, I of course think of, you know, the work that you do every day and the women that you help, and your generosity is so important to women in Wyoming. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I was thinking about, again, the contagiousness. We're living in a pandemic, so I think I'm thinking about contagiousness probably too much right now, but I love thinking about it in terms of generosity more than disease. At the beginning of the pandemic, I had graduates reaching out to me so fast and furiously, and I was thinking that it was because they were losing their jobs or worried about how to homeschool their kids, but graduates were reaching out because they wanted to know where they could give money or where they could give food or cleaning supplies to other families in need. I'm just really touched by that thought today. I want to be spreading more of that myself.
Yeah, thank you for that. Anything else? Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just I really appreciated your presentation, and much of what I was thinking has already been mentioned, but I have to tell you, I thought about your dad when you first mentioned light. And one thing that he really gave was his presence. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks. He had a very strong chi. So he practiced Tai Chi, as many of you know, and felt very strongly about his presence of chi, and just that, you know, part of your body that just has to be so strong, and can be, yeah, a force to reckon with in a lot of ways, but a good force. Yeah.
I was kind of wondering about this distinction between love and light. And I guess in my mind, sometimes I like think of them as sort of analogous or kind of inseparable. And so I thought it was interesting that you had a distinction between those two things. I don't really have a complete thought or a question there. It was just something it's going to leave me pondering that.
Yeah, and it could just be that I needed a third thing for the.
But maybe we always need more of both of those, so that's okay.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely related. I would say that, yeah, love is probably a little bit more inward, and it's just kind of like your essence of being, I think, and how you are. And then light, I think, is more how you kind of take that and help to express it externally a little bit more. If that makes any sense. I don't know, maybe
Absolutely.
difference, but yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if there's a Quaker among us, but I think they refer to the light within each of us. And that makes me think that it's spirit.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I think that makes a lot of sense. And also, I think because we're UUs, I just naturally think of light because of our chalice and just what light means to us, I think, in our spiritual beings. Yeah.
I guess it was striking me too that both of these things they're not extraneous. They're not something that is extra or a luxury, but they're absolutely fundamental to our ability to be. And like quite literally, the light of the sun is what drives all of the energy of our planet to flourish. And as human beings, we can't flourish without the love that we bring to each other. So I was kind of thinking of like, maybe they're almost like levels of, you know, the same thing, but it's manifesting in different ways depending on, you know, where your perspective is. And so then that idea of leadership being like the very deliberate bringing together of our time and our ideas and our efforts. I really appreciated. So I definitely don't have any money, like even if I wanted to be, but I do like truly enjoy being generous with my time, and this talk was wonderful because it helped me reflect on you know, things that I've done over the course of the past year that, you know, are ways that I've been able to express love for people. And you know, just whether it's being online with you all every Sunday pretty much, or working on the garden at school with Rooted in Wyoming, things like that. That's that's it's not an extra thing. It's the absolutely vital thing.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a great reflection. Yeah, I definitely consider you an incredibly generous person. So yeah, it has nothing to do with the money for sure. Yeah. So many other ways to be generous. All right. Okay, are we ready to extinguish the chalice? And I think Ian knows the words, so I'm going to let him say them.
Okay, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again.
All right.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah.
Stay warm, stay warm.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.